Hi, part ones. We made it to the end of the week. It's Friday. I'm going to suggest you read what the gospel is for today yourself. I could read it for you, but I'm going to put that challenge out to you guys. And it's a great one. It's from Matthew too. And it's about Matthew being called. Jesus says, follow me. And I think it's a perfect gospel for us as Catholic teachers to read and reflect on today, because we are being called. We're being called to be disciples. We're being called to follow. And we're being called in our imperfection. Matthew was a tax collector. People didn't like tax collectors. And Jesus called him to be part of his, as his companion and as his disciple and as an apostle. So look up the reading for Friday, July 5th and start your day with that. Start getting into the practice, whether it's in the book or on your app, okay? You can look it up. So this video is about just kind of bringing things together and answering questions that you might be sitting with. These questions came up during our Zoom meetings and some of the Zoom meetings. And one of them was, about the integration task. So that's what I'm going to kind of go over with you guys. And then hopefully I'll answer your questions and give you a little bit more clarification. Okay, so in our course, to help us get organized, we have the course outline, which hopefully you're checking off as you go along, and hopefully it's giving you direction and clarity in terms of what the expectations are. You will identify which topics are a discussion post, which ones you can do as a Zoom, and which are required as a Dropbox. And the Dropbox are the assignments. The discussion posts is just linking all the information together and the conversation you're having as colleagues in this course. Dropbox, I'm the only one that see it, and I give you feedback on that, and those are the assignments for the course. Okay, so that's the distinction between the two if you haven't done an AQ before. And by now, all your OCTs should be in your Dropbox. You should have written your introduction, and you should have written, you shouldn't you guys, but anyways, I'm hoping that you have read everybody's introduction so that you know who you're journeying with in this course. You don't have to respond to everyone. It'd be nice to give a hello or a response or a comment to people as you read their introductions, but I'm just trusting that you guys took the time, because I created that time in our schedule this week. I've never given a reading orientation day in the course, and I thought, it would help you guys kind of settle into getting into the spirit of this course. Okay, so that's the first piece of organization. The next piece of organization you're going to receive today is the updated Zoom schedule. And we determined yesterday that it's going to be morning Zooms. The majority of people came in the morning, and the people who came in the afternoon also said they could probably make the morning. So we're going to do that. And we had an excellent first Zoom. We had a good group in part 1. And part 2, I was surprised. We had 20 out of 25. So so the Zooms are becoming popular in the course, as they should be, because that's a great source of learning and information. Okay, so what is the integration task? So like I told you earlier, I took that, it was a separate module in the courses, as you go through D2L. I took it apart and put them at the end of each module. I felt it was less confusing to teachers. Okay, so kind of gave you a flow. Integration task is connecting the course for you guys. Like I said, even though we've got the 3 modules of encounter, engage, and evangelize, this course has been updated thematically through the Road to Emmaus and Laudato Si, A Care for Our Common Home, our papal encyclical. It still holds the foundation of what our courses are built on. Okay, and that's for part 1, part 2, and part 3. So we're learning scripture in the 3 themes of encounter, engage, and evangelize. We're learning about morality and ethics through the 3. We're learning about sacramentality, and we're learning about church history. And in the mix of it, we're also learning about vocation and conversion forms of prayer. Okay, so I'm gonna, I think I said I was gonna post it and I didn't, but I will post it today so that you have this sort of basic structure for what the three themes are built on in our religious ed courses in part 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the integration task is basically pulling it all together, and it's not as big as it might appear to be. Okay, so it's at the end of each module, we're gathering kind of what we've learned, and at the end of module 3, that's where sort of the bigger piece of the assignment is. So it's building on, and then the finale is the last piece of the integration task after module 3. Okay, so what are you doing in the first part of the encounter? So after you finish encounter module 1, okay, you are going to be reading chapter 1 of Laudato Si. Okay, and you can click on the link. You don't need the hard copy like I have it, right? Basically, and what are you doing? You're looking at your personal connections, okay? So it asks you questions that you need to reflect on. That is going to go into a one-page reflection and submit it to the Dropbox of Integration Part 1, okay? So what do you personally learn from Chapter 1? How has your faith been challenged, like the other two disciples on the road to Emmaus? Did you have an aha moment when reading Laudato Si? What was it? What are your personal connections to Laudato Si and the environment? And how has this reading Laudato Si informed your practices in terms of the physical environment in your personal life? Okay, so Pope Francis took his name from St. Francis. St. Francis is the saint of creation and the environment. And in our current time, whether you believe this or not, or whether you think it is, escalated by people or natural means, it doesn't matter. There is a climate crisis. Our climate is changing drastically, quickly, and it's affecting the way we live. And we'll talk about that more in the moral decision making, right? So this is an opportunity for you guys to connect with a papal teaching, an encyclical. The church responds to the world. The church is not living in the past. The church is living in the present and moving forward. And so when a pope puts out an encyclical, the pope is putting out something that says, hey world, not just Catholics, hey world, have you thought about this? Are we reflecting on this? We need to, as a global community, because the church is global, start considering things. And that's what the communication is from the Vatican. That is what the communication is from the Pope to the people. It used to be just to the bishops. Now it's to the people. That's why we can publish an encyclical. We can buy a hard copy if we want. We can get it online. But it's the conversation going on and creating an awareness and a moral call to people. Okay, and especially Laudato Si has been embraced not just by the Catholic Church, but non-Catholics. I remember hearing or reading about David Suzuki reading it several times, and getting emotional when he read Laudato Si. So this is your opportunity to engage in that. So that's step 1. A one-page reflection. Please use complete sentences. Please be aware of the fact that we are professionals and this is an assignment, and just kind of keep that in mind, okay? Part 2, you're going to finish the next module, engage, and now you're going to reflect on how you can use what you've learned to make changes in your personal life, okay? You reflected on your personal life in module 1, Now you're asked to take Laudato Si into your professional practices, right? And I said this before, we have a personal faith and a professional faith. So the two work with each other, okay? So we've looked at it, how it affects us personally. Now we're going into the professional realm. So use your current role in your school, right, to illustrate some concrete changes you can make. We're all leaders. I don't care if you're a first-year teacher, an LTO, we all have some sort of leadership capacity, and we could instigate change in the communities that we work and live in, okay? So you can illustrate these connections by identifying one learning from each of the topics in the course. Like I said earlier, scripture, sacraments, ethics, and church. Okay, so we're looking at how how we can make those connections. Okay, and then we're taking it into the Catholic social teachings. Now we haven't covered that yet. You'll see that in one of your tasks. The list of Catholic social teachings and how we use that. You can click on, you can get the list and make the connection. Okay, so make sure you have demonstrated what you've learned in each topic of this course. What have you learned in Scripture? What have you learned about sacraments? What have you learned about ethics? What have you learned about church, right? And how are you connecting this to Laudato Si and one of our Catholic social teachings? So we're starting to see you put this course together. You're coming to the end of Module 2. Now let's see, how is this now working for you? How are you making the connections, okay? So you're going to do this as a written reflection or a graphic organizer. You have your choice. It drops into the Dropbox for this particular one. If you choose to write a reflection, same deal, 500 words, complete sentences, and that's the second part. Third part of your integration task is now take everything you've reflected on, thought about, wrote about in the first two, and you're going to prepare a unit of study or a professional development presentation, book club outline, or other presentation format that is approved by me. Okay, so now you're bringing it into something that hopefully you might be able to use in your professional realm. Okay, so once you've chosen your format, please provide some lessons, slides, books, resources that illustrate your learnings from Module 3, which is vocation, conversion, forms of prayer, church past, present, and future, scripture, ethics, and morality. So you take in all that from all the tasks in Module 3, and now we're putting it together. In other words, use your learnings from Module 3 to evangelize your colleagues, right? So we encountered, we engaged, now we're evangelizing. How are you going to do that? So it could be your colleagues or your students. Part B is asking you to provide an extension to your unit. Okay, so at least 3 resources that other educators have used, could use to incorporate into their teachings on Laudato Si. Okay, so this integration assignment, or it's a course culminating task, whatever way you can see it, can be submitted in any format that you would use to share with your audience, including but not limited to PowerPoint, slides, written reflection, journals, infographic, video, website, blog, whatever. So how would you present this, right? Create that, and then maybe you'll use it someday. Okay, so the due dates are there. Hopefully that answers some of the questions you'd be sitting with. Enjoy it, because it really ends up being a great assignment at the end. There's a lot of learning that actually happens, and it's very exciting to see the final product. Okay, and yeah, so any questions, anytime, ask me. There are no silly questions. Even if it's the smallest thing, ask me. If you get the clarification, then you can just keep moving. God bless.